Right, here is some further guidance on lesson 424, looking at these roulette tabled problems, really focusing again on unions, intersections, and complements. So again, in my video guide, I explain kind of the rules of roulette and how it works, and I state that when you place a chip, it's like placing it on the number that you think is going to win when they spin around the wheel and the ball lands on one of these numbers randomly. Okay, and so people place these chips, for example, D, they place it on all four of these so that if it lands on a 7, an 8, a 10, or 11, you would win. Another example would be C. If the ball rolled around and landed on a 4, a 5, or a 6, you would win. So there's a bunch of different chips here that represent different numbers on the board, betting on different numbers on the board. One last example would be like G. If you place your chip on G, you are talking about the numbers 2, 5, 8, 11, all the way down this column. So if it lands on any of those numbers, you would win. And so we're going to focus on creating subsets and looking at unions and intersections of these different subsets of numbers. Okay, so the first one is talking about just the sample space for the entire roulette wheel. Okay, so it's talking about all the possible outcomes that the ball could land on in the roulette wheel. Well, if we look at the roulette wheel, there is numbers 00, 0, and then 1 through 36 on this wheel. So those are all possible outcomes, and so we say the set is 0, 1, oops, forgot 00, 0, 00, oh, not 1, 00, 1, 2, and just to save time, I always put a dot, 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 and I say all the way to 36, talking about all those numbers in between 2 and 36 are also included in this sample space. Now, when it's talking about are the outcomes equally likely? Well, in a roulette game, the outcomes are equally likely because this wheel here would be spinning and you would drop a ball in, and that ball is going to bounce around at random and land in one of these numbers. And since these numbers are spinning and they're equally spaced, there is an equal chance that it lands on any of the numbers. So you say, yes, the outcomes are equally likely. Okay. Now, this is the part where people can get stuck. It's talking about subsets of the outcomes. So just smaller sets of all the possible outcomes. And they give you a couple examples. And so they say the subset for that chip A is 30. And they say that because if we look at that betting chip for A, and you can have that resource page open. I'm just flipping back and forth here. If you look at that chip for A, it's sitting only on the 30. So the smaller set just for A would be that 30. Now they give you another example. B is 22 and 23 because if you look at the chip for B, right here, it's sitting in between these two numbers, 22 and 23, so they're betting both numbers. So we're just trying to make sets of all the different numbers that are included when you're talking about a given chip. So if we talk about one like F, we'll talk about chip F as an example that I'll write down here. They're talking about F is betting on the first 12 numbers. And so if I wanted to write a subset related to F, I need to just include the first 12 numbers. And so I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, dot, 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 all the way to 12. And again, I'm just doing that to save time in my video. You could list all the numbers. Okay. Now, one more example could be H. It's sitting on all the reds. And so we want to create a subset of all the red numbers. The red numbers are just the light gray ones, not the white ones. And so we look at 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 14, 16, 18, and we want to create a set of all those. And so I'm not going to put them all on here for, again, sake of time, but we're talking about 1, 3, 5, 7, and we could just keep going here. 9, 12, 14, and so I'm just counting all the red numbers now. And again, I'm going to stop there. And so you just need to do that with every chip. Okay, odds, when you have I for odds, you just want to list all the odd numbers. When you have one like D, you want to list 7, 8, 10, 11. So we're just creating these smaller subsets of your big sample space here. Now, one like 4, we get into something different, the intersection of these two events. Okay, intersection just means, I like to call it the overlap of the two events. And the way that they say it is what number out of these two subsets could it land on so both bets win? So you just want the numbers where both bets would win. Well, the overlap, or the two numbers where both bets would win, would be 10 and 11. Because if it lands on a 10, well, you're betting 10 in your first subset and you're betting 10 in your second subset. So if it lands on 10, you win both. 11's also included because 11 is in the first bet and the second bet. So if 11 hits, you would win both bets. And so we talk about, I say overlap, where the numbers are repeated in both subsets. Okay, that's the intersection. I'm going to make one more for the union here. Okay, so when you're betting on the union, you're betting this one or the other one. So we're looking at what numbers would make one win or the other win, not necessarily both. Okay, and so if we're looking at the first one, okay, the numbers that make the first bet win would be 7, 8, 9. Sorry, not 9. I always mix that up. Not 7, 8, 10, 11. That would make the first bet win. Well, for the second bet, what would win? I don't want to repeat numbers here because we're talking about winning one or the other. And so the other ones that could win would be 12, 13, 14, and 15. And I want to create this into one subset talking about all the possible that I win one or the other bet. And so I just want to combine these two sets and say, okay, that it's going to be 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, and again, I'm just thinking about if 7 hits, okay, then 1 hits. Then the first bet hits, and that counts because we just want one or the other. If 8 hits, okay, the first one hits, not the second one, but that's still okay. If 10 and 11 hit, well, both win, and that's also okay because that's just one or the other or even both. And then 12, 13, 14, 15, if those hit, then the second one hits, not the first one. So this is all the possible options for at least one of those winning and even maybe both of them winning. Okay, so it's pretty much just the list of the numbers. I take out the ones that repeat. So I don't use 10 twice. I don't use 11 twice. I just list all the possible ones that would win the game for me. Okay, so let's look at B here quickly. And we say that we have the numbers in the first column and the second 12 numbers. And so I'm going to write out both subsets here. The numbers in the first column let me hop back to the slide here, would be 1, 4, 7, 10, 13. It's just going up by 3 every time all the way to 34. And so the first one, that first subset would be 1, 4. Let me make sure I got it right again. I don't want to write it wrong. 1, 4, 7, right. So we're going up by 3 every time. 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 31, and 34. So that's the first subset of numbers they're talking about, the first column of numbers. Okay, the second subset they're talking about is the numbers, the second 12 numbers, so 13 through 24. So my second subset is 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so now we want the union of these two sets, and that just means all the numbers that would make one or the other one win, and frankly both. So I'm just going to make a list of all the numbers that would win, and I'm not going to repeat numbers. And so my set could be 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 31, 34 from the first one. Now I'm just going to add the ones in here in my set and I'm not going to repeat them, okay? So I'm not going to repeat numbers in here. I'm just going to add the other ones that would make this one win. And so 13 I already used right here, so I'm not going to use 13, but I am going to include 14 because 14 would make this one win. I'm going to include 15. I'm going to include 17. I'm skipping 16 because 16 was already counted in the first one. I'm going to use not 19, 18. 19 was already used. I'm going to use 20, 21. Skipping 22 is already used. 25, 28. Oops, sorry, those ones are already used. So 21, and then 22, 23, and 24. And this is just my list of numbers that would make one bet win or the other one or both win. Okay, so I just listed all of them, and you could just list every single one and then cut out the ones that repeat, because that's really what the union is. It's listing all the numbers and then cutting out the repeating. and that's what I did here. I don't have it in order because, like I said, I just wanted to explain it in terms of picking the ones from each one that would win one bet or the other. Same thing happens in part C. Now this video's gotten a little long, so I'm going to stop here. If you have more questions, just let me know. I'll make another video.